Hello and welcome to Building Tomorrow's Insurer, the podcast where we explore the people, platforms and ideas reshaping insurance from the ground up. I'm your host, Nigel Fellowes-Freeman, the founder and CEO of Kanopi, and today I am joined by none other than Emma Fawcett, who's the CEO of Compare Club, but this is just her latest role, newly in the role really actually, and maybe I'll give a bit of a sense, Emma, of some of the things you've done. I apologize if I don't touch all of them, but it seems like you've been in a lot of digital platform businesses, all the way from businesses like MYOB, obviously kind of built digital platforms at News Corp, and obviously now kind of sitting very much at the center of how Australians are looking to kind of compare, choose, and trust financial products. And so I think will have a very unique perspective on not just how insurance is evolving, and comparators are a distribution engine for that, but kind of how that is really changing in the kind of AI world that we're starting to fight our way through. So look, Emma, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you carving out some time.
No worries. Thank you for having me, Nigel.
And look, I think no problem. And look, I think stories always start so well at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so you got such an interesting background and progressed through some like big corporate business and digital businesses, and really through some scale up phases. And so I'm interested in where it started. Like what brought you in terms of into your kind of professional career, and talk us through how that transition happened through, I guess, kind of the last kind of 5-10 years of your career. I'd love to understand how you've arrived at Compare Club.
Yeah, no problem. So I fell into a career in media quite young. After a failed attempt at an architecture degree, I was not going to be a very good architect. So I fell into media, really enjoyed media. I enjoyed the pace of pushing something out every day. I enjoyed the instant feedback that you got to an article or a story or an ad campaign. And so really worked my way up through News Corp to the executive team, was leading all the data, digital, marketing services, businesses and commercial products there. So really cut my teeth, I guess, in fast-paced businesses that had to be really responsive to what consumers wanted. Really also believed passionately that journalism plays a really important role in society. So I felt I was doing good there. But then wanted to leave and do something different. And MYOB came calling, and I really resonate with the travails of small businesses. Lots of friends are small business owners. Parents worked in a small business, and it's really tough. And I really fell in love with the idea of MYOB making life easier for small businesses, and being able to have that impact on people's lives. So I worked there for a while, big transformation job to do. We had to build a cloud software product and then migrate customers to the cloud software product and move away.
Off account right onto the cloud product?
Yes, off account right onto MYOB Business. And I actually the last thing I built there was a specific app for sole traders that I'm actually really proud of, that brought banking, accounting and AI together. So I like to build things. So sort of finished building what I needed to do at MYOB and got a bit burnt out, decided to take a break. And then after 6 months off, discovered I'm not cut out for taking a break. And then Compare Club came calling. And for me, Compare Club is the perfect mix of utility, experience and impact that I like to have in roles. I really believe that people everywhere, financial admin is a bit of a burden, and, comparing insurance and financial products is on everyone's should-do list, and no one ever gets to it. And I have a personal story that was probably timely with Compare Club come knocking. I was sitting at home not working, thinking I probably need to add some value to the household in some way. And I decided to spend a day going through my mortgage, my home insurance, my car insurance, all the things, Foxtel bill. Yes, I'm one of the last Foxtel subscribers. And I rang around and I saved myself, because I didn't really know that comparison services like Compare Club existed, to be honest. I saved myself $12,000 through about 6 months. Yeah, because I hadn't changed my car insurance in 10 years.
Forever.
Hadn't changed my home insurance. And just even making simple phone calls and saying, can you do better? I saved myself. So I was kind of primed for when this role came up. And I'm like, hell yeah.
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go. I think that financial products can be overly and unnecessarily confusing. And if we can add value and simplify and improve the experience of choosing insurance and save ordinary everyday Australians some money in the process in a kind of cost of living crisis, then I'm all in. And so I joined the business 3 months ago.
Super interesting. And it's you say sometimes stars align, don't they? Sometimes there's a bunch of things, a bunch of experience over time. I saw that you'd spent some time on the board of High Pages, and I'm sure that's kind of, again, that brings that kind of marketplace experience, I suppose, in terms of bringing two sides of people together, someone who's looking for something and someone who's trying to deliver something. Did you any of those experiences started to help you out in your kind of early time at Compare Club?
Yeah. It's interesting. The CFO at High Pages at the time is now the CFO of Compare Club.
So there you go.
Yes, I knew her coming in, and I thought if she's working there, had to be quite a good business as well.
Yeah.
But certainly, I mean, I was one step removed being on the board of High Pages, and I think it's really, you only get so much of an understanding. But two of the roles I had at News Corp were running a data kind of marketplace that connected the data of News Corp with the data of our customers and then served that up for advertisers. So a two-sided marketplace there. And I also ran a marketing services business and platform that was a bit of a two-sided marketplace as well. So felt well equipped coming in here to manage the sort of insurer side of it. And one of the things I've done is tried to get out to meet every one of our 60 partners over my first 3 months. I've not quite there, but I've made a pretty decent...
Lots of coffee.
Lots of coffees, lots of dinners, and too many lunches to try and understand what they want to get from our marketplace, as well as I actually start, I reckon, 3 days a week listening to customer calls and reading customer testimonials and reading customer interactions, because I think when you're the CEO, that's where our customer experience lives, and I want to make sure I'm connected to that so that I can connect those two things properly. What our partners want and what customers are telling us that I hear. It's one thing to get a pack once a month summarising customer sentiment. It's another to listen to calls for an hour in the morning and hear firsthand how those conversations happen. So trying to marry what those customers want and need with what is important to the insurers is really a key priority for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? It's something we think a bunch about. And there's often a discrepancy between what the partner wants and maybe the product the partner has and their perception of what the customer would like, and then actually what you see on the ground and maybe what's possible in terms of delivery to that customer. And that's, I guess, part of the challenge that a business like Compare Club and those kind of businesses really focus on, is that intersection between trust, decision-making, customer experience. And have you seen throughout your career and now how those customer experience expectations are starting to change? Do you think they've stayed the same? Are they changing?
On one hand, nothing ever changes, but on the other hand, everything changes. I think at the core of financial decisions for individuals, and I hear this on the calls, people just want to know they're making a good decision. And sometimes we as an independent comparison service, that's the role we play. Quite a few of our calls, quite a lot actually, involve people ringing in saying, I'm thinking of changing my life insurance, or I'm thinking of changing my health insurance. And often we say, don't. That policy is the right policy for you. If what you've told me is ABC and we've asked you a bunch of other questions and this is what you really need, don't change. You're actually on the right policy. And you can hear the relief of, oh, thank you. It's just, I'm not confident in making the decision and I want a third party to help me. And I don't think that has changed forever. I think people used to ask their friends and family and brokers back in the day. And now obviously there's a lot of digital ways that you can do that. But on the flip side, the expectations around that experience have changed. People want seamless, connected experiences. They want companies to know them when they contact them. They don't want to repeat all their details again. And if you think about the consumer experiences like the iPhone that we all live with every day, that you've got to, when you're running a B2C business like Compare Club or even a lot of the insurers, you've got to deliver those Apple-like experiences these days because consumers just expect it. We certainly found that at MYOB. the kinds of small businesses we dealt with, they expected Apple-like customer experiences. They expected beautiful design. They expected it just to work, and they expected to be remembered when they went back in the product. So a lot of our focus, and you mentioned AI before, is how can we make that experience ever better for customers, so that if they come back to us, we can remember why they called us last time, the policy they have, and even proactively start to do those checks or reassurance for them without them contacting us.
Yeah, totally. I think you're absolutely right. Like, data is like this oil, isn't it? That if you look at really the leaders in customer experience, they're often e-commerce. E-commerce has such high volume that every detail sweated very heavily, right? And so and the personalization that comes with those businesses now set a bar. And that bar, then it's very hard to then not live up to that bar. And if you don't, then there's questions asked. And I think you're right. That's what we would take away as well, which is that bar continues getting nudged higher and higher in terms of that sense of personalization without being creepy. But having enough like you knowing the business and level of expectation. I think it's often like a fair exchange of value. Like, I'm happy to exchange my data with you, in the knowledge that you're going to give me a service or a product back that reflects the information I've shared with you. And I think if there's that sense of fair exchange, then I think customers all of a sudden you have that kind of aha moment of joy. But if it's asymmetrical, i.e. someone shares a lot and they don't get much back, that's when I think the friction comes in. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think it's never more important. And I think this is very relevant for insurers in disputes or complaints or customer service. I see a lot of businesses, and I certainly worked very hard at this at MYOB, let customers down in that moment. That's actually, complaint handling is a real opportunity to delight a customer. If you don't necessarily even have to resolve it particularly quickly, but if you acknowledge that they've raised something with you, if you give them a time frame within which you'll respond, which could be a week if it's something really complicated, but if you commit to a time frame and you deliver within that time frame, you generally have a happier customer, because they feel like this is a company that I have great trust in. They've resolved an issue for me quickly. And then if they contact you via another means, you've got to be able to remember. So if they've logged a complaint via a case or an email or a chat, but then they call in about it, those two things have to link, because we've all been there. There's nothing worse than trying to get hold of your bank and you've had a problem and they don't have your email or the chat and you're just repeating yourself. So I think it is just using data to deliver an exceptional customer experience wherever you can. And certainly I'm really proud of, the experience that Compare Club delivers. We have, blowing our own trumpet, we have 6,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, which I think is amazing.
Amazing. And what do you think people get wrong? What do you think, maybe insurers, the providers you've sat down and had these kind of 60 conversations with, and not specifically them, but maybe broadly across the market, what do you think is the current misunderstanding of like what people actually want, what customers actually want to engage with when you're thinking about an insurance or any financial services product?
I hear, and I'm only going from, the sort of first partner meetings I've had and the calls over 3 months I've listened to, I hear consumers every day on the phone with us wanting peace of mind and value for money, but value for money doesn't mean cheap. And I think particularly in my conversations with some of the insurers, there is a perception that comparison services like us, are just out to save people money. But I don't see that at all. I see us every day adding value, like trying to deliver value for a customer and peace of mind. And a call I listened to a few weeks ago, I won't give any personal details away, except to say it was a parent with a ill child, and peace of mind and value for them was being able to walk into a specialist at any moment with their ill child and get treated. It wasn't a cheaper policy. The price of the policy that they were willing to pay went up by many hundreds of dollars month on month. But she was crying in gratitude at the end of that call. And like, that's what gets me out of bed every day. But there's this perception that customers just want cheap. I don't think that's right. I think customers want value for money. They want cover that meets their needs, and they want to know when, like, insurance is protection against bad things happening. They want to know when that bad thing happens, you are there and you will deal with it. Customers ask a lot on the calls, and are they good with claims? So I think leaning into that, I think in my limited experience, if you were to put me running an insurance company now after 3 months in the role, I would lean into claims and delivery against claims, and the customer in a time of need, we will be there.
Yeah, it's so true, and it is a little different. It's a little different to maybe there's obviously a bunch of comparators in the UK where I'm from, and like electricity and telco to some degree were really the leaders there, and they're somewhat more of a commodity style product, and they are a little bit more price driven, I think, because you turn the light on, the light comes on. Yes, you have some kind of apps and things that sit underneath that and give you a bit of idea of give an idea of your usage and those kind of things, but don't quite have the need and the level of I guess the protection that a financial services product like an insurance product gives you. And you want to know that it's the right product. You want to know that when you are traveling and something goes wrong, or when you get unwell and something goes wrong, or when you whatever it is, you're going to be covered. And sometimes prices, like you say, price isn't the driver of that. And so kind of when you're thinking from a Compare Club perspective on that, in terms of your price isn't the primary driver, but you are looking to bring a bunch of providers together and try and share to the consumer the different kind of values that each of those products bring. Kind of how do you start to think about that in terms of customer journeys and experiences? It's because it's a tough thing to do, right? It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I have to acknowledge that the starting point for many people in coming to a comparison service is they were searching to save money in some way, right? Like we're getting them at that point. They're putting into Google, my health insurance seems expensive, or I just got my renewal on, like that's the starting point. Let's be real, is people are coming to a comparison service often looking for money. We spend the time trying to understand where the value lies. And as I said, if they're on the right policy, we won't switch them. But I think it's a really interesting juxtaposition, that idea of trust, transparency, customer experience, and then overlaying data through that. And I think we can work closer with the insurance industry to try and bring that to life. And I think we have a lot of data that would be valuable to serve back to partners too, in terms of what their customers do and ask about their product in particular and how that might differ to someone else. Like I think certainly when I think of partnership, and the message I've been telling the insurers is I think that we can work a lot closer together on some of these things.
Yeah. And do you think you have the opportunity and getting the insight to help start to shape like product design and those kind of pieces, in terms of feeding back the other way and saying, this is what we're being asked for. These are the things that customers are asking for.
100%. And I'm wondering how much to say here. I've definitely noticed in our life insurance vertical a huge opportunity based on what we see. The team, I wasn't the first to notice it. The team have been noticing it, but I really brought it up, I guess, at the higher level conversations I'm having, and said, I think there's a huge need here. We have literally tens of thousands of customers ringing and asking for this, and no one is meeting this need. Now, potentially for a life insurance company, these are not the most attractive customers, but is there a way that we can build a product that, meets the customer's need, even if it's for a limited time, but gives you a level of protection? Like, here's the need. Here's 100 calls you could listen to. There's got to be a way we can work together to help these customers. So yes, in some cases, I think we can probably help drive product innovation as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been like life insurance is an interesting adjunct with the advisors are diminishing. The advisor network is getting smaller and smaller. They're getting older. And I think the stats of how many advisors are acting in Australia now is, dwindling very quickly. But the kind of the needs, the complexity and the assets and those kind of things of everybody is growing. And super probably doesn't fill the hole. And so you definitely have this kind of need for a base level of protection that you don't get in super, but you don't have the wealth to get an advisor, and there's this big gap in the middle. I think I'm not sure if that's what you're talking to, but that's what we see. We see this big gap that sits in the middle of a chunk of folks that don't need the sophistication of having an advisor and doing everything, but also the super doesn't quite fulfill their needs, and it's very hard for today to find how you can fill that hole.
Yeah, I think financial advisors do an absolutely wonderful job. I've got a financial advisor that I would give a shout out to. I love him.
Yeah.
But like the hurdles they have to jump to become a financial advisor,
so high.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like no wonder there's not a lot of new entrants into that industry. I think it's harder to become a financial advisor than the Prime Minister, I reckon.
Yeah.
That they play such an important role, but there is a whole host of people in that general advice space who don't have complex needs that would require the statement of advice and all of that thing. And they don't have $5,000 to pay for it either. And that is squarely where we play in that general advice. We are trying to meet the market. Australians are grossly underinsured when it comes to life insurance, which, that's the ultimate, tragic event coverage, right? But I think, I'd love to work with that industry to increase that awareness about the importance of insurance. And, we do feel a need with general advice in the market there that I think is only going to grow.
Going to get bigger. And when you think about, you've just spoken there really about partnering with the customer to try and deliver a service, and partnering with your, your service providers to work with them to bring product to market. And that's something very core to us. And when I speak to, there's a lot of like startups and businesses that listen to this, that they try and think about partnerships as a key growth, key component of their growth. But it's not easy to do, and it's not easy to do well. Especially making partnerships as a growth engine. That if I look at your business here and businesses you've been part of in the past, seems to have you've really kind of started to nail this kind of growth engine kind of a theory within execution. Can you talk to me about that? Like, have you got any nuggets of wisdom that have come from your experience in building partnerships and partnerships being a growth engine of businesses you've been part of?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you mentioned that. We were just having this conversation actually as an ELT the other day. In every business I've run, I've ended up building out a huge partnership strategy if one didn't already exist. I'd love to do business with people. I think is a natural. I love to meet people. I think I see win-win everywhere I go. So I think I'm just naturally inclined that way. But for me, like, how do I make strategic partnerships work, and what's the approach I'll bring to Compare Club? I think really good partnerships are built around shared customer and commercial outcomes. I think partnerships won't work where those two things are at odds, where a partner wants you to do something that's antithesis to your customer experience, or you want a partner to do something that's antithesis to theirs. There has to be a natural kind of enhancement of the customer experience on both sides, would be my first point, or else don't even bother with the conversation. And then secondly, the commercial goals have to work for both parties too. Are we both trying to acquire more customers? Are we both trying to sell more products to more customers? Like, what's the commercial goal? And what's the point at which we can both add value to our respective customer bases? So that's the first point. I think if those things aren't aligned, you're going to spend a lot of time working on a partnership that just is never going to fly. Yeah. And then I think you've got to be, and this requires trust and transparency, you have to be kind of willing to be transparent about what you need and what they need. Because again, you might have agreed that we can add value to each other's customer experiences and our commercial goals align. Let's say we both want to acquire new customers and our partnership is in honor of acquiring new customers. If your partner wants 100,000 customers and you want 10,000 customers, there's a mismatch there with the level of investment that will be put in on both sides. So you've got to be willing to be transparent. And again, sometimes in my 20-year history of doing partnerships, I kind of have walked away from partnerships where they want to keep those cards close to their chest, because I'm like, if this is going to work, we kind of have to put, to a certain extent, all our cards on the table and be transparent about what we're trying to get here. Because if you want 100,000 customers and I want 10,
no matter how hard you work, you're never gonna be happy. Yeah,
I'm going to be really happy, and you're going to be really unhappy at some point. And then you have to manage and nurture the partnership like you would any other relationship. So you have to put potentially more effort in at the start, transparency, reporting. Is this working as anticipated? What joint marketing are we doing? And then you've got to talk and have trust and just adapt as you go. But I think if you approach it from those sort of 3 points about shared, agreed, shared value for customers and shared commercial goals, transparency around what those commercial goals look like, and then agreement to talk frequently and often and adapt in the first year, you can build some really successful partnerships out of that.
Yeah, super interesting. Those pillars they resonate. They really resonate, because things won't always go smoothly. Whenever you're building a partnership, there'll always be hurdles. There'll always be needs of businesses change and evolve. And so it's so important to have that shared understanding, and their shared understanding across the business, across both businesses, that when you're meeting those issues, you can then sit down and go, okay, we're shared understanding here. How do we kind of progress through the bump?
Issues as part of the start when you're signing a deal. Like, okay, something's going to go wrong, probably on our side, probably on yours at some point. What kind of partner are you? Do you want me to notice the issue, fix it, and then tell you about it after, like once it's resolved, depending on the level of severity? Or do you want me to be on the phone immediately going, we've found an issue. Are you noticing this? Don't worry, I'm on it. Like what would, because some people are like, just solve it and let me know after the fact, or don't even worry about it unless it's of magnitude X. Other people want to know every detail. So I think not just, we have a tendency as human beings to focus on the happy path. I always like to cover off in everything. If this goes wrong, like why might this go wrong? And when it goes wrong, how are we going to act or adapt? It's a bit of a killjoy.
No, but it's important, right? Because I think if you've fronted up to it early, that you then know in terms of whoever's like managing the relationship, then I know how Emma wants me to react here. Something's gone wrong. Do I need to guess? Is it like there's grey and I'm not sure? Or actually, I know this is exactly how Emma likes me to communicate and she wants to know about it, but then I can go away and work on it. And so that makes a bunch of sense.
Yeah. And also figuring out why might this fail? Like, you know, are we rock solid in our joint marketing, but we're not confident in the integration? Or where are the potential risk and pain points so that we can kind of work for mitigations? And if we see that happening, it's not a surprise to anyone because we thought maybe our marketing might not hit the mark.
Yeah. Yeah. And when talking about that, but building partnerships, I think we've seen over the last 20, 30 years, maybe a real progression from product businesses through two-sided marketplaces into ecosystems. I think we've seen this real transition of businesses to become these ecosystem businesses that don't just serve a single product to a customer, but start to become a center that look after multiple of the customers' needs. And I think those things are really scaling up. It's something that I think is, we'll see more and more of. And obviously, when you think about Compare Club, you kind of sit in that convergence, I think, in terms of maybe going from like single comparison products and obviously evolving into adding more and more financial services products. And so I'd love to know from you, like what you think kind of platforms like yours should play in that convergence of building these ecosystems. What role do you play and like what's your what expectations should customers have of you?
Yeah, I might have to be careful how I answer that. I don't want to give away my brand new strategy that I've 3 months. But I agree. And one of the reasons I took this role was I saw nearly endless ways to grow in any and all of those directions that you mentioned and a half dozen that you didn't mention. But certainly if I go up a level and talk about the ecosystem, you see it everywhere, right? So there's no doubt the whole world is moving to an ecosystem, and there's no doubt that financial services and insurance products are attractive. So if I go back and talk about something that has been done in my time at MYOB, we absolutely built MYOB out into an ecosystem. So we started with sort of invoice factoring and online invoice payments, so giving people other ways to pay. We moved into small business lending. We started B2B2C, offering superannuation. Like we absolutely had moved into that space, recognizing that we had a right to play. We had all this customer data from the accounting that meant we could save the customer a lot of time when applying for all of these financial products, right? They didn't have to fill out all the paperwork because we had all their business history. And it was, new opportunity. Everyone knows the more products you add to a customer, the stickier they get. So retention goes up. So all that goodness. So am I bringing that thinking to Compare Club? Absolutely, in terms of what we do. If I look at what we do today, we have specialized in the complex financial products where people need expert advice. And we have really, I think what Compare Club has done so brilliantly well is bring human expertise into all of those verticals that we deal with. So we do life insurance, as we mentioned. We do health insurance. We do mortgages. We do reverse mortgages. And so we've always specialized in these, I want a human being, I want expert advice, and we've really hired excellent sort of broker capability in there. More recently, we've moved into the more fast-moving consumer good products of that space, if you like, in terms of utilities. And we just launched travel this week.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It just went live on Tuesday. Because for me, the challenge with some of those other verticals is their infrequent purchase. So I'm not I'm not changing my health insurance every year, and I'm certainly not changing my mortgage every year for the majority of people. And life insurance is a every 10 year sort of proposition. So for me, looking at the business and going, how do we increase that frequency? Something like travel insurance is an annual, if not biannual purchase, and it fits really well with the demographics of the rest of our customer base. So I'm certainly looking certainly looking at other verticals we add, but then is there a product that might sit over the top from a financial services perspective that brings it all together? Maybe. Sort of cast the net out wide and charge my ELT with coming back with some ideas. But I mean, I think connected ecosystems are the way to go. You only need to, I think companies in China do that incredibly well. They build these absolute ecosystems where you've got the one app to rule them all, and you can go in and do nearly everything in that app. I think a lot of us could learn a lot from those businesses.
You're absolutely right. The Alipay, kind of Alibaba, those kind of applications in Asia are enormous. Ping An, but they built these massive connected ecosystems, right? They're unbelievable businesses.
I don't have plans to make Compare Club that big. Just
Australia's not big enough. I think there's not enough people. There's not enough people in Australia.
I just see such an opportunity to bring that peace of mind and just help people with what is just always sits on the should list and never gets. And I mean, who wants to spend an afternoon ringing around insurance? It's not the funnest.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Apologies to all our insurance friends, but it's not the way.
You're right, absolutely right. A bit of a curly one. And this is something we're spending a bunch of time on in our business. And everyone I speak to is it's on the strategic plan. It's how will this either make my business get big or really impact my business in terms of scale, and that's this growth of agentic AI. And there's I suppose one side of thinking, which is the comparators, when you're thinking about agents and an agent doing the job of a person, i.e. Sally jumps on today and jumps on a comparison engine and has a look. Is there a world in which an agent can do some of that role for the customer, and how to kind of comparison style businesses fit in that world? I'm super interested in, obviously you don't have to share anything you don't want to, but I'm just interested in your general thoughts around how you're thinking about agentic, how you're thinking about kind of impacts on the business, how you lean in and where there's opportunity. So
let's just say when assessing, coming into this company as CEO, obviously I looked long and hard at that and the role that I might play and where consumer behaviour will go, because you absolutely do see people starting to use ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and asking it financial questions. And then I looked at the assets that a business the size of Compare Club has. Like we are I think the largest or second largest distributor of products in every category we play in. And we have such a large strategic moat from a data perspective. If the curly part of that question is, are you going to have a business in 5 years because AI might wipe you out? I think the answer is no, or I wouldn't be here, because I think our data is a really large strategic moat. I also think the compliance and regulation that exists in many of the spaces we play. May have spoken to a few people who work in some of these companies. They don't necessarily want to get involved in really like highly kind of high compliance, high regulation, too much opportunity for them to run foul. So I think that provides a huge opportunity for companies like Compare Club to actually work with rather than against businesses like this. Initially, we're seeing it as a channel to market, like any other channel to market, and how do we work that channel to market and get our fair share of traffic from that channel to market. So there's the kind of consumer side. Potentially, those platforms are going to need companies like us with our bespoke data over many, many years of talking to millions of Australians. They just don't have that. And then the second part is, how can we use it internally? First and foremost, we've been focused on using AI to make our humans better, to go around and say, what's the 20% of your work that's admin or paperwork that we can help you with? You mentioned our kind of sales agent perspective, that's been tooling like a product quote tooling that takes, all of our data across millions of Australians and what they asked and what they said and what they ended up buying and what worked best for them and did they stay with that product, did they change, and feeding it in to make sure that the recommendation is sort of machine powered as well as human powered, and that's a really nice juxtaposition. And then absolutely we've built sort of end-to-end AI tools that can service customers when we're not, because a surprising number of people are searching for health insurance.
3 a.m.
Oh, 3 a.m., 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. People are doing this for kicks, and we're not there to help them in that moment. So we've got to have the digital tooling that will do that, and that is increasingly AI powered for us.
Yeah, so interesting to hear about the kind of that data piece. The obviously we speak with a lot of insurers and speak a lot about this and how they're thinking about these systems, and like yourself, spoken to a bunch of the folks at Google and most function. OpenAI and Anthropic and all of those businesses, and ask these questions, and the number one issue to kind of even get to the start line is kind of data and making sure it's in good shape, and unless it's in good shape, it's very hard to even get to the start line. And so it's so like interesting and great to hear around you having that data in perfect structure to be able to kind of jump on it quickly, right? It gives you a real head start, I think, on a huge amount of businesses that are just starting to think, oh yeah, maybe we should have taken this on this data cleanliness on a few years ago.
Yeah, and full credit to the founder of our business and also a couple of members of the ELT who are very data minded and might have been data scientists in past life, because they've set this business up in a really perfect way to be able to structure data well, have the right data architecture, have the right ways to access that data, and then AI just allows us to turbocharge how we pull that all together and turn it into something meaningful and useful. I'm not interested in AI because it's cool. It's like, what did that thing do? How did it, and we've really been focused first on our people and how did it add value? Like those 20 people now have an hour and day back. That's awesome.
And when you magnify that over a big workforce, it adds up quickly. Emma, I could literally talk to you all day, but I don't want to use all of your kind of final days before the end of the year. And so I'm just going to ask you one final question, if that's okay, before we wrap. And I'm going to ask you to do the hardest thing in the world, and that's stare into the future. I'd love you to think 3 to 5 years. We have this kind of pod again. We kind of sit down and have a conversation, which hopefully we can do. I'd love to understand, how do you think about insurance, maybe the wider financial services industry? Like, where is it going to be? Where's Compare Club going to be? I'd love to kind of you gaze into the future and give us a sense of what it's going to look like.
Obsessed with predictability and proactivity, and I think, and the customer and the businesses that are proactive and surprise me, I love. When you anticipate my needs and serve me my needs before I knew I had them, I love you. And I just don't see that in financial services products. And I even take, something like my health insurance or my mortgage, for instance. I'm pretty sure that I told my bank at the time I signed up my mortgage that I had kids that were aged XXX. There is a time in life with aged children where nearly everyone in the world seems to upgrade their house, yet no one has proactively reached out to me about that. So I think the data and AI, if you did all the things we just talked about, it allows you to start to predict customer behaviors en masse and potentially anticipate needs and then serve needs. Now, you've got to not be creepy. I keep coming back to every time, you talk about a use case, you don't want to be creepy. You don't want to freak people out so it's a fine line, I think. But when I look I think increasingly people are going to get used to businesses anticipating their needs, though. So I think it will become more accepted. But there's something for me, and we were certainly grappling with it at MYOB, about how do you anticipate the needs of a business and start to meet those. And I think financial services business could do that too. You hold a lot of really rich data on your customers. You can start to group them into segments and use that and go, these customers generally behave like this. Well, these customers are the same, but just a year behind. That might mean that, a home upgrade is coming, or they're due to review their health policy, or they're due, life event. I think life events trigger a lot of these financial sort of changes. And I think somewhat life events are somewhat pretty, we're all pretty, human beings are kind of the same. So if I go forward 5 years, I can see a world where we're all more proactive in the servicing of customers and providing customers a better experience off the back of that. And that's, Nigel, not having given your question a lot of thought, but just probably coming at it from what I would like. I would certainly, I'm time poor. If a business can say, hey, Emma, you haven't ordered makeup from us from a while, here's what you usually buy. Are you running low? Like one of the online beauty brands does this. They actually serve me and say, you're probably running low on your foundation. And I go, yes.
So I actually am.
And it's one click to repurchase. And then it's there in 2 days.
Perfect.
I want that as a consumer. Give me that in all aspects of my life. Time for.
Emma, I absolutely love it. I'll wrap with just an adjunct to what you've just said, which is I read a stat the other day, which is something like 80% of families after bought their first home, within 8 months, they buy a second car. The stats are off the charts in terms of second car from a first home. And so as a perfect example of, if you know I bought a home, you know that I'm going to need a car and some car insurance and those kind of things within 8 months. And so how can you help me serve that?
Car dealer, and come back to me and say, because you've got your mortgage through Commonwealth Bank or whoever it might be, we've got a deal with, isn't Toyota the most popular car brand, or whatever, whatever it is, you can have 2% off. Car brand's happy, customers happy, win-win, customers got value.
Perfect.
Win-win.
Emma, look, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure everybody at home has. And so, look, best of luck. I know you're early in the role, but we're really looking forward to watching from the sidelines and seeing what the next kind of couple of years holds for Compare Club. So thanks so much for your time.
No problems. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, look, everybody, I'm sure you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. If you do want to jump on and see our faces, there will be a video version. You can jump on to our YouTube channel, and the link will be in the description below. And as always, if you want to hear more from industry leaders who are pushing the boundaries in insurance, please do check out our other episodes of our podcast series, Building Tomorrow's Insurers. But from me, from Emma, have a wonderful end of year and happy 2026.